And go ahead, Madam Mayor.
I would like to call this special council meeting of the Town of Lincoln Council to order, October 5th, 2020. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Easton. I'm the mayor of the Town of Lincoln and chair of today's special council meeting. We're meeting electronically through Zoom during this declared emergency period. Members of the public may observe the proceedings by accessing the live webcast at our YouTube channel. Madam Clerk, would you please complete the roll call
Thank
so
you.
that we can confirm everyone's attendance as we are holding this meeting electronically today and to confirm quorum? Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Easton. Mayor Easton,
Here.
Councilor Rajima,
Here.
Councilor Russell,
Here.
and Councilor Bernay sends his regrets and is marked absent. Councilor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councilor McPherson,
Present.
Councilor Miklick,
Here.
Councilor Timmers,
Here.
thank you. Councilor Reimer,
Here.
and we have quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. In addition, I would like to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us today electronically. Chief Administrative Officer Mike Kirkopoulos, Finance Treasurer Terry Trewalla, Director of Planning and Development Kathleen Dale, Associate Director of Planning and Development Matt Bruder, Director of Community Services Shanna Mackay, Associate Director of Recreation and Culture Sarah Ain, Culture Development Coordinators Jessica Wilson and Jasmine Proto. Fire Chief Greg Hudson, Economic Development Officer Paul Deaney, Director of Public Works Dave Graham, and moderating and clerking the meeting today we have our Town Clerk Julie Kirkelos. We also have in attendance Regional Councillor Foster, Corporate Customs Service Administrator Deanna Phillips, and IT staff are also in attendance. As this is a virtual meeting, I will ask that we follow some procedures during this electronic meeting. Should there be a connection or service disruption for the chair, or if quorum is lost, the chair and or clerk will call a 10-minute recess to reconnect and to regain quorum. If quorum is lost, the meeting will be adjourned. If connection is lost from the chair, deputy mayor, or the vice chair will resume the meeting. Once reconnection is achieved, the chair will assume their role. Each member of council who wishes to speak, press the raise hand feature on your video call, and the clerk will track our speakers list today and then invite you to speak when I open it for comments or questions. Also, when I finish reading a motion and announcing the mover and seconder, the clerk will then call out the vote by reading each member of councilor's name out loud. Please remember to take yourselves off mute during this portion of the meeting so that you can confirm if you are in support or opposed. Also, when not speaking, please remember to put yourself on mute. There has been a request that we consider the reports of municipal officers from both the mayor and regional councillor Foster as item 7. To allow for Regional Councillor Foster to depart for another meeting. After these reports, the presentations will follow as item 8. We now require a majority vote to amend. Madam Clerk, if you would carry out the vote.
Thank you. When I call your names, please vote in favor or opposed. Councilor McPherson,
Yes.
Councilor Miklick,
Yes.
Councilor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councilor Reimer,
Yes.
Councilor Rajima,
Yes.
Councilor Russell,
Yes.
Councilor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and Councilor Bernay is marked absent. You have the majority vote. Please move ahead.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest? There being none, are there any announcements by members? Keeping in mind that you have a limit of 3 items. Raise your hand if you'd like to present anything.
Madam Mayor, first up, we have Councilor Rajima.
Councillor Rinjima, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. An update from the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber had its AGM on Wednesday night and voted in new board members. I've mentioned this in the past, I believe, but I had the pleasure of acting along with Jared Brandon and Dave Klassen as the board member recruitment committee. And there was a considerable amount of interest among those with whom discussions were had regarding taking part and sitting as a board member. I think there were 3 spots available and as many as 7 that were interested in those spots. And our new board members are Sue Foster from RJ Foster and Associates, Diane Bubanko from Centennial Bed and Breakfast, and our returning members are Edward Dam of IS Technology Services and Katie Letourneau of Custom Sign Lab. And we also welcome Candace Nicholson from the Jacob Retirement Village. And also, Madam Mayor, as Chair of Community Service and Infrastructure Committee, I want to announce for those watching that council will be aware of this, of course, but on September 16th, 2020, Chair Bradley released a statement that the 2021 Canada Summer Games have been postponed until 2022 due to a whole host of complications related to COVID restrictions, not limited to the obvious ones being how do you hold summer games of that magnitude and still meet social distancing requirements, but also there were timelines related to construction for the facilities for the Canada Summer Games that were not being met. So the Summer Games have been postponed until 2022. And when you think about how quickly 2021 is coming up, it's unfortunate, but it was the right decision. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Madam Clerk?
Next up, we have Councillor Russell, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say a couple things. The first is a heartfelt thank you and give some much-deserved kudos to our staff, to Director McKay, to Ms. Sarah Ain, to Lori Laird, to our CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, to all the staff that helped launch very successfully the skate park and pump track on Saturday. As many of you have heard, most of you have seen personally, it was a great event attended by many. I think it was such a beacon for the community, and I think it will be continued to be so. I know a lot of hard work and time was put into it. I also want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Donegan, Trevor, and Adrian Panichetti for all their help that day as well. I think overall it was a very, very well planned and well executed event, and I know the community is very very happy to see it come to fruition. I also want to thank Ms. McKay for our tour with Mr. Warden on Friday. Myself and Councillor Gemma did a safety tour of Hillary Bald Park, and we had some great instruction and some great discussion about some of the safety protocols that currently are being developed for the park, and we're going to have a report back coming very shortly. It was a very fruitful discussion that I think down the road is going to mean a lot to making sure that our kids are safely engaged at the park for a great time to come. So thank you very much, and hope you have a great night.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just wanted to give a big shout out to Sarah and Dave Warden and Shannon McKay for the 50 Trees project. Councillor Brunet and myself had the opportunity to help with the ceremony of planting a tree at Ashby Park. So first 10 trees went in there. One of the things the residents said a couple years ago when Tony and I were out and was that it was the park was a beautiful spot, but there was no shade and it needed some more amenities. So this is the first step in the rehabilitation of Ashby Park. And again, wanted to thank the staff for the tour of Prokich Park last Thursday. We've got a timeline on remedial works going forward. So it looks as if everything goes to plan, should be completed in 2 weeks. So tennis courts and the pickleball and the basketball and the paths. So the celebration that we had at the Fleming Center for the pump track and and skate park at Rotary Park. Hopefully we can have that same thing at Prokich Park in a couple weeks. So thank you very much.
It's wonderful. Great news. Angelina and Alec will be sending blessings, no doubt. Now, Madam Clerk, I'm not sure who is first.
We have Counselor McPherson.
Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And tomorrow night, the Downtown Bench BIA will be unveiling officially the alley in partnership with the town of Lincoln. The BIA was able to secure a regional grant to fund the artwork that was done down there, and we, being the council and the executive board of the BIA, will all be invited down at 7 o'clock tomorrow night to do an official unveiling. So very exciting. I think most of you have probably seen it. I have been down there a number of times during the process and have not yet seen the lights on. So looking forward to seeing the lights on tomorrow night. So hope all can make it down for the official unveiling. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. So much excitement. Councillor Timmers.
Oh, thank you, Mary Easton. I think I'm going to be repeating a lot of what all of my fellow councillors just went over, but exciting stuff happening in Lincoln. It's just, the skateboard park, the pump track, just so exciting to see that happen. And, our young kids and our youth and our young adults that were out there certainly need this right about now. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to see it happen. I also am very excited about the 50 trees that are being planted for our 50th anniversary of Lincoln. And this Thursday, we will be planting at Rittenhouse Road Park. So I will be down there Thursday morning to see some beautiful trees go into that park. And I will definitely be there tomorrow night to see the alleyway. I cannot wait to see that alleyway. I'm just so excited. And the young man that did the artwork in there is just so incredibly talented. It is an amazing piece of artwork, every piece of it. And I just cannot wait to get there. So I will see you there. Anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All good news. Thanks very much, councillors. It's not often that you have a litany of really terrific stories to tell. It's all good. The results of all your good planning. The next item on the agenda is reports of municipal officers, and the first report is 7.1, which is the mayor's report. And I have a different kind of a report to present to you this evening because I had an experience, a very, very exciting experience last Thursday. First, though, I want to speak to our citizens about the last 2 weeks and the complete and total inundation with changes and alerts regarding COVID-19. Each of the provincial and federal announcements have in their own way important messages for all of us, but not all the messages are necessary for all of us to respond to. And so things become a little bit interesting after you hear changes day after day. But the most important message that you all need to remember is one that's been top of mind from the beginning. If we expect to remain well, if we expect to be able to keep our families safe and return to the most normal of routines, we need to continue to wash our hands frequently, to use hand sanitizer, maintain a 2-meter or 6-foot distance from others, and wear a mask when none of that is possible. And when you're inside a building like a store where there are other people, and this is all in compliance with the regional policy. We need to stop having casual parties. I think we all understand the frustration that people are feeling, but you're creating an environment of risk. And at this time, the medical officer of health, Dr. Hergy, has identified those parties as a source of increased outbreaks in Niagara. We all want to return to normal routines. We don't want our economy impacted negatively The local businesses want us all to keep shopping local and using their services. So let's rethink and regroup Lincoln to keep our local numbers as low as possible. Last Thursday, I participated at the invitation of Her Honor Elizabeth Dowdeswell, our Lieutenant Governor for Ontario, in an electronic meeting with 54 other women mayors of Ontario. The focus of the meeting was COVID-19 and its impact on women, and the importance of women returning to the workplace in order for a full and timely economic recovery from COVID-19. The session was moderated by Her Honor, who many of us know quite well, in quotations, because she will call you up on the phone and ask you how things are going in Lincoln, Mary Easton. She does this quite often now. And she invited an economist and writer who focuses on social and economic circumstances of women workers by the name of Armine Yalnizyan. And you may have seen her on Steve Paikin. I certainly have. She also invited Federal Minister Mary-Anne Monsef, who the mayors know well also, and the Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Rural Economic Development federally. And the provincial minister, Jill Dunlop, attended, and she's the Associate Minister of Children and Women's Issues. So I've just name dropped a whole lot of people, but the point is that these are the people that know what's happening. They're the ones that are influencing policy in this area. There were women mayors from all over Ontario. We heard more than a few reports of snow conditions in the far north, which was quite interesting. The leadership goals of women mayors overall included community building, greater community conversations, the expressions of lived realities of their communities, as many of us who could made comments and asked questions of Ms. Yalnizyan. My question was related to the changing narrative about women and the struggles that they face managing households, struggling with inadequate childcare, which is essential in light. There are many in our population under working age, and many over the age of 65 who are also not working. The issue ahead is not will there be jobs, but will there be workers available to fill those jobs? Conditions vary all over the province, and distance and ease of travel were important conditions that make work possible or impossible in many areas of the province. The incidence of spousal abuse at this time is of major concern, and many of our Ontario communities are hundreds of miles away from any support centres. Even locally in Lincoln and Niagara, the availability of services and safe beds is limited. And if you can see your way, ladies and gentlemen, to providing even small support, it is always welcome and appreciated. Locally, you can contribute to Jillian's Place and Big Brothers Big Sisters, who I am told specifically are particularly needy at this time. Government has a role, and we want to be sure we stimulate work and get all people back to work. And I want to highlight a few statistics that were shared, and these are quite startling. More women lost work and therefore opportunity during COVID-19. The economy can be expected to grow more slowly due to population aging and the number of people too young and too old to work, that ratio of too young and too old to work. Industrial expansion must and will continue, but we will be faced with labor shortages for decades without building our local contribution to work incentives, including supporting local business, and that includes shopping local and shopping in the Main Street retail shops and services. Women are equal partners in the labor force and need to be able to return to their work with appropriate childcare supports in place. Only 60% have opened, and this is creating an economic and a very serious issue for families. Early learning and childcare are elemental to ensuring that children are learning ready when they enter kindergarten. Women continue to be the carers for the majority of children, and due to lower salaries are the ones who remain at home when a lack of services are available. But that money is valuable to every family. What solutions can Lincoln address to improve our local childcare conditions? Immigration policy is creating a passive model of permanent residence, and that leads to instability when the average child per household is now at 1. Most immigration is in temporary workers and migrant workers and students in Canada that are here to further their education. We need to invest in the education and preparation of the skilled trades, and every municipality can play a role in this important job market. As well, we will have lost almost all of our post-war skilled tradespersons within 8 to 10 years. This important job market, within 8 to 10 years. Small business loans may be of value to keep Main Street afloat. The current economy will unleash a reckoning on household debt, and therefore much needs to be done individually to bring those levels down to the reality of incomes until our health status rights itself. Education and support is required to assist families in developing a new economic plan for the near future. In Lincoln, I believe we have adopted an ounce of prevention. I think the skate park bike pump is an example of that. That ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And we have developed many ways to assist people, and will continue to do so through our capital and operating budget discussions, which are currently taking place. The growth of communities contributes to stability, particularly if that growth brings money with it. In response to my question on the changing narrative, Ms. Yalnazan responded that the narrative is changing around us constantly, and what is required is a change in perspective. We are currently riding a Ferris wheel, and every time it stops, there is a different view. Doing nothing, remaining fixed in the way we do things will not help. It may very well create more crisis because we will not be managing everything we can. And I believe that in Lincoln, we have been managing everything we can, and we should continue to do so. There are many in crisis, and we can all make a difference to help them. We need a top to bottom integrated solution, and that means the opinions of the public, all of our opinions are going to be important to this process as well. The state of finances all over Canada are far more than the individual or organization or business. At the end of the session, we agreed that a bold statement on the perspective of women's role in the recovery of our communities and our country is essential. I've agreed to participate, if asked, in the creation of that statement. Excuse me. I would also add at this time, when every day is such a challenge for all of us, that we try to listen and understand more. By doing so, we begin to see things differently and from a diverse perspective. Consciously see happiness wherever you can. Don't brood or think negatively, or it will spread around you like wildfire. Reduce social media vitriol. Sometimes perspectives from others' writings can be taken negatively. Try to adopt a more lighthearted or kind approach. Your perception of what is around you is reality, and we are here to help with understanding and to assist with changes that will make your life and the lives of your families more manageable. I want to thank Her Honor Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell for bringing the women mayors of Ontario together and for allowing us the opportunity to hear from our colleagues about their diverse community challenges, the realities of those challenges, and the ways in which those challenges are being met. Here are a few Ontario municipal government facts. 414 municipalities held direct elections in 2018. Women comprised 27.2% of candidates, and 92 were elected as heads of council, 80 as mayors, 11 reeves, and 1 regional chair. 54, as I said, participated in this session, which is the second Her Honor has hosted. The town of Lincoln has been very well supported over the past 50 years with mayors and councillors who believed in the development of community and they have and continue to represent your interests. And we all support the mantra of the 2020 International Women's Day theme, I am Generation Equality, realizing women's rights. The year 2020 is seen as a pivotal year for advancing gender equality worldwide, and we all take stock of progress made for women's rights and the sustainable goals that we have expressed as a council and as a community. In this 50th year anniversary of the town of Lincoln, I wish to recognize all the women who have served this council. Mayor Gladys Huffman, Councillor Jill Hildreth, Councillor Barbara Troop, Councillor Lynn Thomas, Councillor Patricia Butcher, Councillor Beverly Davis, Councillor Margaret Andrews, Councillor Carla Carson, Councillor Diane Renchima, Councillor Lynn Timmers. I am thankful and honored to be included in their and your company. I wish to thank all of our male counterparts who also contribute to and provide support to our common issues and share in the challenges of building this community to the best it can be. I want to add my own notes regarding the opening of Lincoln Skate Park and bike pump track. And I want to recognize anyone who over the past 20 years has endeared themselves to this project. On Saturday, we formally acknowledged the Reverend Walter Mittler, local Rotarian, the Uptown Riders, and also Trevor Donegan and Adrian Panichetti for their 21st century advocacy of the skate park, was Trevor, and bike pump track, first municipal pump track in Niagara, that was Adrian. I know that others who attended will have many comments to make, but as I said on Saturday, now that the work is done and what was an endless struggle has now become a badge of honor for tenacity, for endurance, and for the learning that what is important does not always come easily. And sometimes things do move slowly because money is not found on trees. And also for what we have learned about community, particularly the vital involvement of children and youth, if we hope to have balance and diversity and equity in decision-making as a council and as a community. The planning stages have been a testimony to flexibility and nimbleness in decision-making, that what started as one project came together as one. And we all share the excitement of that launch, knowing that there is a very high degree of community satisfaction in the park planning process. And I thank the staff of the town of Lincoln for all the efforts that they made to bring so many people together to achieve that very positive outcome. We thank Lincoln Rotary for their initial $100,000 contribution toward what will eventually be a fully phased-in park. The smiles on the children's faces, the increased traffic of cyclists and boarders on our streets, and the children coming in from all parts of Lincoln are a testimony that we all live in Lincoln, where everyone strives to be a good neighbor, and children are encouraged to achieve their very best. I wish you all well. Be safe and care for yourselves in a safe manner. Thank you. It is our honor to serve you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Russell to receive and file as information the mayor's report on October the 5th, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I noticed that Councillor Regina has her hand up.
My apologies. I don't have that screen up. Yes, Councillor Renchima, please go forward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And that was very interesting. Thank you for sharing with us information about the session that you attended regarding women in the economy. Councillor Timmers, Director McKay, and Sarah Ann and I were meeting regularly up until about a month ago, once a week, to speak about vulnerable populations that had come about, particularly because of the COVID restrictions. And one thing that rose to the top on a regular basis was that women are disproportionately affected and are expected to continue to be disproportionately affected economically. So I wanted to thank you for bringing that up because our vulnerable populations are something that we need to be keeping top of mind in all the decisions that we make right now and into the future. Things are so busy. I think sometimes it's easy to forget that a lot of people are really suffering right now. And I know we won't. And there's a report that staff are putting together that's going to describe some of the conversations that we had and some potential action items that came out of those meetings. And I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I'm pleased that that you will be taking the greatest advantage of those conversations that you had. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I didn't see anyone else. Do you have anyone else?
No, I don't. So I'll go forward with the vote then.
Thank you.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers. You're on mute, Councillor Timmers.
Support.
Thank
Sorry.
you. That's
Support.
okay. Mary Easton
Support.
and Councillor Bernays is marked absent, and that carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, it's time for us to receive Councillor Foster's update. Councillor Foster, come forward.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. My internet is giving sporadic problems here, so hopefully everybody's going to hear me okay. So in my report this month, the main thing is around budget and a number of items that I thought members of council should be aware of that's coming forward within the capital budget for the municipality of Niagara. First of all, the entire package for capital for this year is 501 million. That's up considerably from previous years. We're also looking at another figure, and Mayor Easton can correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I think it's 560 million next year that we're looking at as the overall capital envelope, and then it's going to be decreasing in years after that. Couple of the things that are important within the budget process, and of course, my assumption is, of course, these will be approved. The Camden pumping station, there's upgrades that are going to be going into play. So 1.2 million will be spent there. Ontario Street pumping station, there's 850,000 that is being allocated for that. So now the money's going out, but the actual construction of that is going to be 2023. So I did provide you the timelines on those items. Hopefully that's going to help particularly my friends in the East End with some of the questions that are coming to you on when some of these particular construction pieces are going to be going into play. Road work, the King Street between Durham Road and Lincoln Avenue, that's going to be undertaken. As well, there's a number of road resurfacings that are going to be going on. It is my hope that that last piece of the puzzle on the South Service Road is completed next year, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on the recommended roads that they're going to be coming back with. The Vision Zero, there's infrastructure requirements that are going into place, and I put that in here. Mayor Easton and I, along with the CAO, Mr. Kirkopoulos, had a discussion with Carolyn Royale last week. We are very aware of the concerns coming from your council on a variety of traffic issues and safety issues within the community. Personally, I thought it was a very good discussion on what's happening within our community and what is going to be happening. One of the very interesting things, and I'm not sure if all of you are aware or not, we are on a 1-year a one-year plan for the analysis of downtown Beamsville when it comes to the way that traffic is moving between the Ontario Street and Mountain Street area along King Street. We actually have cameras that are set up that are recording what it is that's going on within those areas. This was a new program that was put in place by Carolyn, and we're on a one-year analysis that's going on with this. So we're going to have all seasons that we're going to be looking at. So I think this is quite positive. Around the community safety zones, as we talked about at the last meeting, Mountain Street was not included as one of the ones. However, after going through the list of community safety zones and the rationale behind the decisions, it's coming up. I'm going to be pushing for Mountain to be in the 2022 budget, and then there's a number of other ones within the town that we have to be looking at. But the interesting thing is the community safety zone cameras that are being looked at for actually ticketing within those areas. So we'll be talking to you more about that at a future discussion point. It's my hope that Ms. Rael will be in and having a discussion with your council and that in the not too distant future. The one last thing, and just to comment on Councillor Njima's discussion around the Canada Summer Games. Yes, they have been delayed. I actually am sitting on a committee for the Canada Summer Games, and it's been quite disappointing, the moving it out for a year, but it's an obvious logical thing to be done given the uncertainty. To correct one of the comments from Councillor Njima, the facilities were going to be ready for the games, but the nice thing is now is that they're going to be able to totally complete the facilities. And in fact, the plan is to have the community moving into all of those facilities well ahead of the games and have them up fully running before we actually hit that in 2022. So with that, that's my comments for this evening. Thank you, Mary Easton.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'll just echo Councillor Foster's comments. It was a very fulsome discussion that we had. It was very amicable, and but you know, we were quite firm about the circumstances, particularly on Ontario Street. Councillor Russell, I see you have your hand up.
I do, Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Foster. Thank you very much for your update. Just one quick question as it pertains to budget. Do you at the region yet have a targeted range of what you expect the budget increase will be for the levy?
No, we don't. And in fact, if I had to hazard a guess, I think we're coming in at somewhere between 1% and 2%. But I'm not totally sure where that's going to land yet. There's going to be a lot of pretty tough discussions at the region as we're going through this, but there seems to be a general commitment to doing the capital improvements that are required. You know, it's very unfortunate that, and I'm going to stop blaming former councils for some of the things that have gone on, but suffice to say that there was a lack of spending on some of the capital items that should have been done over the last number of years. And we have a very aggressive plan that we have in place at the region to take care of some of these things. And pandemic or no pandemic, unfortunately, it's one of those things we simply have to do. There are capital improvements that are required within Niagara to make sure that we have infrastructure that's appropriate for our Niagara. So anyway, thank you, Councillor Russell.
No, thank you very much for that honest opinion.
I believe Councillor Timmers is next. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
It is, thank you.
Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mary Easton, through you to Councillor Foster. Thank you for being here tonight. I am now getting, my internet is unstable, so if you lose me, That's what's happened with me. Just one item on the project list for Lincoln regarding the street widening, the intersection from Vinehaven out to 23rd Street. I see only the design, 30% of the design work for 2023. What does that mean exactly? Is that going to push it out even much further if it's only 30%? I don't understand what that means.
Sorry, Councillor Timmers, I did miss the beginning part. Are you talking about downtown Vineland?
I am, sorry. From Vinehaven to 23rd Street, the road widening and the intersection. And I see
Yeah, that's
30% design work for 2023.
Yeah, there's a significant amount of work that's coming into play, not only at the region, but also within the municipality to move this forward. That'll be a good question for you guys at your Public Works meeting to be leveling at Mr. Graham. He can probably bring you up to date even far better than I can on this. But the bottom line is that we have a year of basically infrastructure that has to be redone in that area, and then the finished coating that's going to go into place after that. So I can't tell you exactly when it's starting up, but my belief in all the things that I've been looking at is it's 2022, 2023 is going to be the big major construction time that's going to be going on in that area. So,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. I just got a little worried when I saw 30%. I didn't understand what that meant, but you're right. That's what, I'm hearing as well, 2022, 23, right? So thank you for that. And perhaps another conversation with Director Graham on that at another time. Also regarding the pilot project where the cameras are set up at two of our intersections downtown Beamsville. What kind of data are we collecting through that? Is it just traffic movement? What else do they gather from that?
Yeah, they're monitoring through you, Mayor Easton. They're monitoring all of the movements that are going on. They're monitoring pedestrian movements. They're monitoring traffic movements. They're monitoring all of the different components that are going into play with that downtown area. And of course, all of us who live here in Beamsville and are councillors who, have spent time and watched what's actually going on in downtown Beamsville. This is good because this is putting the proof, if you want, into place to show that, there are a variety of issues going on with that particular intersection. Now, I was very heartened in my discussion with Carolyn and as well with your CAO on some of the capital projects that are being discussed at the town for this upcoming year as well, and that includes some of the work on Bartlett and places like that that really truly are going to help us start swinging traffic away from the downtown area. But again, those pieces of the puzzle, we need good data to be going and dealing with these things, and this is going to be giving it to us. So,
no, absolutely, very happy to hear about this pilot that's happening, and hopefully we can move it down the road to the Vineland intersection next. Anyway, but thank you.
I think that's a good idea, Councillor. Madam Clerk?
I think so too.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have Councillor Rajima up next.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead,
and
Councillor Rajima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Foster, for your presentation, for being here tonight. I have a question about, I don't know if you had your draft budget, if you've seen that, so I don't know how much detail you have, but I'm wondering where CIPs are at this point in the region's budget.
First of all, CIPs don't come out of the capital side of things. They'll be coming out of operations.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fairly substantive amount of money that comes into play with the CIP programs. I'm going to be quite blunt on this one. That's one of the areas that's under major investigation as we're going into this upcoming year. The problem is like personally, I've always believed it's a really good tool for economic development, but the costs have been going astronomically through the roof, if you want to put it that way. And I'm sure that's one of the things that Mr. Deanne and Mr. Kirkopoulos are hearing at their region-wide meetings when these things are going on. If it was up to staff at the region, they would have done away with this a long time ago. But you know, Mayor Easton and myself and several others have been doing the strong arguments that this is an important tool in the arsenal. My guess, though, is that I suspect we will be seeing this. There will certainly be capping put onto it, and I wouldn't be terribly surprised, you know, if there might be some reductions in some areas. So, you know, the region and you know, there's only so much that the region actually has control over when it comes to budget. Same thing with the town of Lincoln, and you know, it's about 92% of things we really don't have too much of a say over. So you know, that particular piece of the puzzle fits into the 8%. So again, it's going to come down to some very interesting discussions at regional council. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Foster. And do you know when the budget process for the region is expected to wrap up?
We're looking at the budget being wrapped up. We're not going to be completing it this year. We're going to be having it move over into 2021. My expectation is that we'll be completed in January, but that's not an absolute given. We'll see, you know, where pieces of the puzzle are coming into play. So, but the last timeline that we had was late January was when it was going to be finished.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And while we've got Councillor Foster here, I would like to hear from Director Graham about the Vineland project and the question that Councillor Timmers raised about the process. And of interest is the timeline that has to happen for a 2023 construction. And possibly, Dave, if you could speak on when that engagement starts with the town of Lincoln and with the region. Obviously, the town of Lincoln having the sidewalks and the streetscaping, and the region having the road. I'm interested to know where we're at today, and when do we expect to get a lot further down the road, so to speak, no pun intended. Through you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Foster.
Directed to Mr. Graham.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
let
very
Mr.
sorry.
Graham take
My
that one, yeah.
apologies. Go ahead, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor McPherson. So right now, town staff and regional staff are working together on the design. It's a normal process to work through the detailed design stage right now as we start preparing, you know, tender drawings to ultimately be in a position to do construction. You know, as we move the design along further, we'll also be in, you know, consultation with council, sharing out other stakeholders, the public, you know, as we start finalizing the drawings. The region is intending to, in 2022, to be in a position to come in and do some utility relocation works in advance of the larger road reconstruction component, which is planned for 2023. So in 2022, you could expect, you know, Hydro, the gas company, Bell, doing some of their relocation works in advance of the larger construction project, which is planned for 2023. So I don't know if anybody has any other questions, but that's a bit of an update on the process currently.
So Madam Mayor, just a follow-up question, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Director Graham, is it fair to expect that public meetings would happen then next year in 2021?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's what I would expect, yes. I think the
Okay.
public could expect public information centers in 2021. But definitely, as we get closer to that, all that will be communicated to the public and council.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Director Graham. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask CAO Kirkopoulos to step in now. I think there's a few items, Mr. Kirkopoulos. The Mile Vision would be, I think, an interesting feature for council to hear about as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to council. Just a little bit of background on what I think also is a very exciting pilot project. We are the only municipality in Niagara that is using Mile Vision and that is going through this particular pilot project. And just to expand a little bit on what Councillor Foster said, typically the things that it looks at are things around the corridor and the corridor performance in the intersection. So travel time, for instance, the speed at which people are getting through the intersection, both in a southbound and northbound perspective when you look at Ontario Street, and an east and west when you look at King Street. Arrivals on green, so how many people arrive when the light is green. Members of council will recall we often have gotten some complaints about that intersection, and is it long enough for people to cross? So a lot of those key metrics that one would look at in terms of planning out what traffic looks like and what traffic movement is like in terms of performance measures will be up there. And the ultimate goal really is to look at kind of traffic progression, enhancing that intersection and how it works. And so the region and Ms. Rael did say that they would come back and maybe give us a 6-month update to look at particularly what was happening, and then come back at the end of the year with recommendations on how we would look at vehicle and pedestrian movement in that intersection.
Mr. Kirkopoulos, what about the 30% question that was asked? Do you have anything more there?
So through you, Madam Mayor, I think just to piggyback on Director Graham's comments, typically when you look at a project of this scope, and I think Dave highlighted that 30% design is currently where we're at now. So the update we received from the region is where they're sitting now in terms of that 30% design. So that was really I think, the point in that, Councillor Timmers. As Dave said, there will be significant stakeholder and council consultation as we work with landowners in that area and council in terms of what you want to see there.
Okay, I'm going to just to ask if, again, is there anybody that wants to ask Mr. Kirkopoulos anything further on that while we're at it?
Madam Mayor, we have Councillor Miklick up next.
Okay, Councillor Miklick. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Regional Councillor Foster. In your report, like Vision Zero, CSZ, cameras, etc., I've been seeing in Hamilton, and there's been some talk about some speeding cameras possibly being in the Niagara region. I see them in Hamilton now, and I know we have a speeding issues here in our town as well in Lincoln. Is the region looking at this still? And if so, when do you think the timelines would be? Is that in this year's budget, or is that in this year's plan, or can you comment to that?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, in fact, that's exactly what that CSZ cameras are that are mentioned there. There's actually 4 sets of cameras that are going to be purchased by the region going into 2021. 2 are going to be portable that are going to be used in a variety of areas for the camera ticketing, basically is what it is. And there's going to be 2 fixed ones. Mayor Easton and I, of course, we're advocating like crazy with the region to have one of the fixed ones in front of the Vineland School. That remains to be seen whether or not that happens. But the whole idea of this is that there's a whole sequence of infrastructure that's coming into play with this. To give you an idea of this, and you know, it is a bit of a change at the provincial level to actually allow this. You know, having the basically the cameras for ticketing people. When they first introduced this in Toronto, and for the first, I believe it was the first week, there was something like 22,000 tickets issued. So, you know, the reality is that there's an infrastructure that has to go into play to handle this. There's agreements between the municipalities that has to be put in play. And I know your CAO and the mayor are working on those types of things. And the reality is that this is sort of the next step in you know, trying to make our community safer. So we'll see where it goes, Councillor Mikulik. It's I happen to think it's very positive, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for that response. I just like to further advocate for that. You know, that we have had a lot of issues with speeding in areas, and you know, not that I'm the fella that's speeding and that I'm planning on getting a ticket, but you know, it is something that I'd like to see the town of Lincoln have at least one of these portable cameras set up from time to time and not be forgotten in the whole process. I mean, we're all equal. I think we're all equal as a region, all of us municipalities, as far as the issues and challenges that we have with traffic safety and speeding. So.
Well, just to make a comment on that, Councillor Mikulik, Lincoln is never forgotten as we're going through with these things. And in fact, we've been on the leading edge of some of these changes, including, you know, we were one of the first 2 community safety zones that was put in as a pilot project. And there's been a lot of work done on Mountain, and, you know, there's a lot of work needs to be done on Victoria as well. So yeah, don't kid yourself. Between the mayor and myself, and through your senior staff of the town, they know who Lincoln is. So
That's what I'm just making sure. Keeping you guys honest. That's what I'm doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. That's the end of the speakers list, Madam Clerk, I understand.
It is, Madam Mayor.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. That was a very detailed discussion and all very relevant this evening. Thank you very much for your report.
yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. Oh, Mayor Easton, I just wanted to quickly say, and it's something I forgot to put onto this, is we have the change in the waste management that's coming up this month. So I'm hoping everything goes really smoothly. You should be encouraging people to use the app that the region has put out. And if you do run into any problems, you know, please, you know, there are the phone numbers at the region to get a hold of. And of course, you can always float things back through myself and Mayor Easton. But hopefully we're going to have a smooth rollout of that. So anyway, thank you, Mayor Easton.
Thank you. The waste management engineer in this house thinks the app is wonderful.
Was
complaint.
that, did you say wonderful or terrible?
Wonderful.
Okay, good.
Wonderful. I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor McPherson to receive and file as information Regional Councillor Foster's update on October 5th, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Thank you. If you could remove your microphones off of mute, please. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
And Councillor Bernay is marked absent, and that carries. Thank you.
Councillors, we are at item number 8 on the agenda, the adjusted number 8. And we have two presenters this evening. The first is from Plus VG Architects. We all know Mr. Paul Sapunzi, the managing partner. And Paul is here this evening to provide us with an update on the museum. I'm going to call on the CAO to provide some introductory comments. Mike, would you please go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to all of council. I do want to welcome and introduce Paul Sapunzi. Paul is here with us this evening. He's going to take you through a very brief presentation and absolutely can answer some questions. We've also got a number of our community services and culture staff that are here this evening as well. But for many of you, Paul is no stranger. He's been with us on this journey for over 5 years. And as council knows, we have and will continue to bring reports and presentations to council. There are a number scheduled for the last quarter of this year, and you'll probably see at least 2 to 3 reports in October and November, and possibly into December as we work towards completing and preparing for the move and the opening of the new facility. Again, as council will recall, we have begun initiating and completing a number of the actions that are in our strategic plan and in the strategic plan that council approved and that was presented about a month ago. There have been some stakeholder consultation sessions that are occurring on a monthly basis. And I would suggest that those have been incredibly helpful in terms of moving us forward as we look at exhibits and programming and a lot of the things I think that the architecture that Paul's going to speak to really provides us as we kind of show off our community collection and the collective history we have as a community. So I will, I'll end my comments there. I do have some more to make, but I will try to incorporate them when council and if council has any questions. But some exciting things ahead for this project, both from working with partners and with working in the community to get us, I think, to a very positive and good spot. So Paul, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mayor Easton and members of council. Thank you for this opportunity. With your permission, your worship, I'll be sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Paul. And I'm sure you know, but I'll just remind you that you have 10 minutes to present. Okay. And then we'll have questions. Thank you.
So I've got a lot to cover, but I'll give you, I've tried to compress it. It's a complicated project, and it's really a big project, not necessarily a big building, but it's been a big project overall. Yes, Michael is correct. We started working on this over 5 years ago. So it's been a very interesting process and a very positive process. And we're almost there after 5 years. So I'd like to share with you where the design is currently and give you a little bit of an update about the progress of construction. I want to tell you that there are really two clients, the official client, the town of Lincoln, but we have another client, and that is the client. They're not paying us, but it's definitely our guidance on this project is the Ministry of Heritage, Sports, Tourism, and Cultural Industries. And I'm saying that they are an important contributor to this project because in order for us to establish a real Canadian museum here in the town of Lincoln, and a museum that's going to be able to house and receive exhibits from all over the place, as well as provide a sustainable long-term plan for your own collections and growing collections as the community evolves, we must meet very stringent criteria for the functionality, mechanical, electrical profile of the building, as well as the thermal aspects of the building, insulation, a clear conservation plan. Most importantly, we have to understand the exhibit that's going into the building and how we're going to handle it to preserve it for many years. So there are two very important standards that we've been using throughout this entire process. And one is this conservation standard, which has to do with the artifacts that are going into the building, the handling of the artifacts and the process for receiving and processing, as well as the physical plant standards that are in the building. So I'll just remind everyone, if you're not aware of this, the climatic conditions for a museum are just about as challenging as any kind of high-end healthcare facility. We need to be able to control humidity within a range of 3% all the time throughout the year, regardless of temperature. And we need to maintain light levels, and we need to maintain the curatorial processes that the ministry requires for this type of collection. So let's go to our site plan and where we ended up placing the building. So this has been a very tight site, but it's been a very interesting site. And then from the very get-go, we've talked about this as a kind of gateway project. Let's remember that the museum really consists of the entire site plan. And in our original study of the site, the mandate of that was to look at the site itself and how to bring these buildings together and create orientation and community meaningfulness for this collection. And the way that we determined that, or the way that we position the building, is that it acts as a kind of gateway to this cultural landscape. So the building not only acts as a kind of receiver of community, but it also acts as an orientation piece, and it acts as a kind of viewing mechanism for both for the valley as well as for the building artifacts that are on site. And I think that the design that we've generated really puts all of that together. So the building is positioned very carefully between our two neighbors. Let's remember that this is a residential street and that we have a lot of sensitivities when it comes to privacy in our neighborhood. So I think that we very carefully position the building so that we have as much open frontage on either side of the building and how it nestles into this community, particularly with the two flanking houses at 3796 and 3804. So we've maintained this front yard setback and a kind of entry courtyard to the building, as well as this church lane piece, and then this kind of landing spot and revelation for the entire site at the rear of the site. And this has all been carefully coordinated. What this did require, which was not anticipated at first, but it did require pile driving along this side of the foundation, which we were successful in incorporating into this budget because of the proximity of our neighbors. And we've been able to achieve at least 6 parking spots on site, including barrier-free accessibility, and a completely barrier-free building and largely barrier-free site. Just want to take you back to 2015 and what this project looked like. So when we finished that study, that was a schematic study and was really to study the overall site. But we determined a need largely for the collections at that early point, and a few support elements such as office space, some storage space, and public washrooms. It was a pretty simple design. And for the basement, we determined that we would only be finishing a portion of that basement and leaving the rest of it unfinished as archival space, and incorporating in this first phase a little bit of staff space. Well, after we finished the study and we started really digging into the design, after the schematic design, we went into design development. And at that point, we really dug into the collections and we dug into the way that this thing should operate in its current business plan. And we've developed a very fulsome museum program going from the original schematic to where we are today. So this is really a state-of-the-art museum, which can handle all kinds of exhibits and will give you a permanent home for your growing collections in the future. The building has grown by about 1,200 square feet as well, based on the kinds of program that we've needed to incorporate. We've been able to absorb that into the budget as well. Don't forget, there's been about a 15 to 20% increase in construction costs since 2015 for many reasons throughout the province of Ontario. Of course, that's the higher end of the figure, but we're seeing significant changes. So one of the challenges that I had along with your project team was to try to maintain this within that budget. And I think we've been very successful in doing that. So now we have 2 completely finished floors when this project is done. We're very close to being finished. We'll be finished within a couple of months. And I want to walk you through some of the items that you're going to have in your community. So we reoriented the entrance to the front of the street. We were concerned about having a lot of traffic on that side, on the Church Lane side, particularly because of the neighbors. And I think that this works much better. We have a completely barrier-free vestibule. And as you enter the museum, you have your first introduction to this kind of casual display area, which is about 650 square feet of collection space. We also have a special segregated display area in the corner, which could be used for special collections as well. And then as you enter the museum, you're confronted with the reception desk right at the heart of the building. We've also incorporated a really high-end museum level elevator that's going to be able to move artifacts between this floor and your archival floor. And that also provides 100% barrier free to AODA standards. And we've also incorporated 2 full staircases now because the entire basement is being used. Moving further into the plan, we have our main collection area, which is almost 1,000 square feet of high-end collection display with lighting, mechanical systems, really everything, including the loft and the size of the space to accommodate many different types of collections, traveling collections from all over the place. And of course, we'll have all of the mechanical support that we need to make that happen. We also determined a need for shared workspace. Rather than a lot of private offices. We found that the flexibility for that would work better for your organization. So we've created a shared workspace with 4 people capability. And we also incorporated a meeting room, which we felt as a program was something we couldn't go without. So those flank the collection, and they are really well positioned within the plan to avoid any kind of interference as you move through the plan. So you've entered this gate now, and you're traversing through it, and you're being exposed to various elements of the collection as they evolve and grow. So as we move to the back of the building, this is where we are. Sorry, pardon me. So we've gone from this collections area toward the back of the building. And we're flanked by a series of washrooms. First of all, we have a family barrier-free washroom, and then we have 2 non-gender washrooms as well, which are, one is fully accessible, and we have a 3rd washroom. So that gives you all that kind of flexibility for having washrooms for staff and for patrons of the museum as well. Now, this is the rock star space at the back of the building. And this is where you're presented with this incredible picture window, which we've invested a lot of money into, which has this kind of explosive view of the entire site. For those of you that have been to the site, I mean, when you come into this room, it's a surprise. You see all of those buildings and all of that architecture and that landscape perfectly framed from the main collection display area. But we still have a good level of light control on either side. And now we have this 700 square foot display area, which also works as a multi-purpose space for events. And we have a patio behind it, which acts as the landing area for all of this. So you can really see how the back end of this building works in concert with the rest of the buildings and allows for multi-purpose activities. Now, the really big end of the building, where all of the expensive equipment is, and really all of the kind of support stuff for a museum. So as you may or may not know, most museums and art galleries have a 50-50 ratio of archival space and collection storage space to presentation space. And this does exactly that. So we have the same footprint. And now we have, within that same budget, been able to finish all of this museum, even at the lower level, which just makes it fantastic. I was quite concerned 5 years ago that you'd be doing this in a piecemeal fashion, but I'm happy to say that we're going to be handing over a complete project. And that's going to consist of, again, more barrier-free washrooms, a rough-in for that, a processing area of almost 400 square feet with storage and a data closet, a staff area with a sink and a lunch area, We have our plumbing closet. We're going to need our elevator, which comes all the way down with mechanical space. Then you'll see that we have an unusually large mechanical room for a building of this scale. It's about 250 square feet, and that's just because it has a HEPA filtration system and the humidification controls and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really a state-of-the-art, a top-notch museum mechanical system that's going to keep, you know, your fracture collection forever. And now we have a completely finished storage collection area, which is almost 2,000 square feet, which again is very significant. Finish that off with a couple of stairs, and these circles here are representing the extent of that pile work that we had to do. So the museum is approximately between 8,500 and 9,000 square feet. Some of the things that we developed as well in the design as we went from a kind of an early schematic designation to a completed building now is looking at the materiality of the exterior. And this is a kind of special balance between how much light you want to let into the building versus how much light you want to keep out of the building. Light and museum collections really are antithetical at the end of the day. So what we did is we focused on having a lot of glazing at the front of the building and a lot of glazing at the back of the building. Originally, we had incorporated a lot of stonework on the interior of the museum when it was more of a pavilion style casual museum. But now that we've really housed everything and put all that program into it, we decided to take all of that stone out of the interior because there's just so many washrooms and walls that we need for display. And we've put it right on the Church Lane facade, and that's what this is representing. This is we've been able to source ledge rock, real limestone, ledge rock limestone. If those of you who are familiar with the Legends of Niagara golf clubhouse that I did a few years ago, it's the same material as what we did there. It's a high-end material, and you've got almost an entire wall of that as your third side to this museum as you go down that lane and get into the back of the building. Also in the exterior, we've had to incorporate two types of glazing systems, a double glaze system, which is typical, but it's a high quality, low shade, but high energy efficiency, which gives you a lot of visibility in the museum, but still protects the collection. As well, in the special areas, we have triple glazing, which is really important to the humidity control. We've also incorporated wood grain into the exterior to complete that image of the museum. So the main characteristics of the museum are really this front facade, which is a very large glass area and gives you that kind of effect of a gateway into the site. The large stone wall, which you can see if you drive by in Jordan, I'm sure all of you have, that we've incorporated into Church Lane. And you've still got that large courtyard at the front of the building. And with hopefully in the future, as funds are collected, we'll be able to do more to this landscape at the front of the building and make more of it for public use and perhaps some casual outdoor exhibit space as well. At this time, though, we have really put a lot of effort into the mechanics of the museum and making sure that is sustainable for many, many years to come. The back of the building facing the artifacts is really the special space. And that's a very large space, almost 1,000, it's a very large space, almost 1,000 square feet of space, all glazed, will work as a multi-purpose space, both for exhibits, as well as receptions, as well as public events. Perhaps some community rentals can happen out of there. It's really up to you as to how you want to program it. And it's very valuable space. So that's really, I hope that's within the 10 minutes. That's really a kind of high overview of where we are. We've been managing our neighbors, I think, very well. We've been managing our contractor really well. I want to thank Shannon and Sean and Michael Kirkopoulos for their guidance and leadership in the project. And I look forward to being at the official opening with all of you to celebrate this event. And I think that in the spirit of what the mayor said about her meeting with the Lieutenant Governor, I think we have to be optimistic, and opening new buildings at this time is probably the most optimistic thing you can do for a community. So thank you, Your Worship, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate it. You were a bit over, but you were really on a run there, and it would have been a shame not to have heard the whole story. So thank you
Apologies.
very much. Madam Clerk, I'm assuming that there will be plenty of questions about Paul's presentation.
Thank you. Give me one moment here. And the first up that we have is Councillor Pachariva.
Thank you, Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Paul, for the presentation. The facility is stunning, in my opinion, and it's quite respective of the budget. And I look forward to the opening. You know, having been on council since 2003 and seen many iterations of a museum plan, and at one time there was no elevator, and we went back and said, well, we need an elevator, we need functionality in the bottom, and the backspace, I guess the presentation space. I also sit on the library board, and we're looking at having an author series, and I think that this would be the perfect setting for doing this. We had Margaret Trudeau come a number of years ago and do her book. So I think this will be the jewel. I think this will be a focal place to do countless community events, and you know, the incorporation of the wood and the slate, the stone, limestone, you know, from that was at the Legends Golf Course, and probably also the same limestone that you find in the falls area and the escarpment. It just is fantastic. It's lovely. So I look forward to opening it. I look forward to stepping inside and then, you know, hopefully raising a little bit more money and doing that outside front portion. But stunning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Councillor Rajima.
Go ahead, Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Paul, for your presentation. And I also agree that the museum is beautiful. The whole grounds are beautiful. I was around too when discussions were, when the question was, well, okay, so the one iteration of the space came forward, design came forward, and it got pushed away because we weren't happy with it, and for good reason. And then there was discussion around, do we continue to use this space, or do we have the museum somewhere else in Lincoln? And this, to me, was always the best place for it. It's a beautiful, beautiful grounds full of a lot of history. And then when this first iteration came forward from you, there was some people looked at the building and said, maybe this isn't as reflective of our heritage as it should be. And I didn't agree. I thought it's a great idea to have the building as it is. I see it as sort of a beautiful, I think of it as a beautiful display case amongst all the heritage buildings and the incredible heritage value of the property. So I see the museum itself as a kind of a display case for everything that's in it. Oh, I really appreciate it. I have a couple of questions. The meeting room at the back, the 700 square foot multi-purpose room, in the one image, there was a number of display cases dotted throughout the center of the room. Is it proposed that those display cases, are they going to be built in? And is it proposed that they be moved around when the room is rented out? That's one question about that multi-purpose room. But the other question is related to that, is if those display cases are to remain there, and if they are permanent display cases up the center of the room, when are we proposing to rent that room out? So if we rented that room out in the evening, would we need to staff the building, or is the room proposed to only be rented out during the hours when the museum is open? That's one question. I do have another one after, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind.
All right, Councillor Njima, you're getting quite into the detail, and I'm going to ask actually going to ask Shannon Mackay to give us some high-level thinking on this, because I think your questions are very relevant and they're very good questions, but they are really related probably to a future budget discussion that we're going to have. But in the meantime, Shannon, would you please respond to Councillor Rinchima?
Absolutely. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The intent is always to have the display cases be movable throughout the entire facility. Nothing will be built in. That allows us to move and adjust and use the space for exhibits and displays as needed, and use that multi-purpose room as it's needed at the time or requested to be. As far as rentals, there will be rentals both in the evenings and on the weekends and on holidays and while museum staff are there, but it is always our intent as well as we have rentals to ensure that staff are in the facility. It's a municipal facility and we would like to have staff present in the facility and on site at that time.
Okay, that's great. And Madam Mayor, I do have one more question.
Yes, please go ahead.
And I'm not sure who this will go through to, but at one point we had some work and I think a geotechnical study for the property regarding the stabilization of the bank at the back. So I'm just wondering the outcome of that, and if there's any issues or if everything is going along swimmingly.
Okay, again, our relationship with the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture comes into this. Paul, was there any discussion that involved the site plan that you referred to earlier? I'm going to help Councillor Rinchima out. Was there any relationship to the site plan in regard to the issues with the bank stability?
Yes, Your Worship, that was identified through you, Your Worship. That was identified in our study as not a priority, but definitely as one of the elements that would stabilize the entire site in a sustainable way. We did provide some recommendations for further examination of that area. However, due to budget restrictions, we've put that work on pause. And we would incorporate it into other site works that would hopefully be upcoming, but the need is still there. It's stable as it is, considering the amount of use, but if you are to bring more public into that side of it and create a display platform viewing area, which we recommended, that would require some engineering and costing.
Okay, does that satisfy Councillor Rinchima?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
Next up is Councillor Miklick.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Paul, for that presentation you've made. It's an interesting building. When I was campaigning, there was, now that I'm elected, there was some concern about the architecture, the style of the building, and it's fitting in with the town. And what I tell people is that 100 years from now, it's going to be historical and we're going to remember this one. So it's definitely a period of time that'll be remembered for this council, certainly. Question I have is, when you're constructing, when you're in the building of a project of this manner, how are we doing? Like we're kind of getting into the allowances phase where now things start to get expensive inside and that sort of thing. How are we doing from a budgetary perspective with regards to the allowances that we've allowed ourselves to finish off the interior of?
Okay, just a moment, Councillor. I think I'm going to pivot over to the CAO because that the accounting for all of that is within the jurisdiction of the municipality. And then if there's anything additional, we'll put Paul on the spot again. Mr. Kirkopoulos, can you answer the councillor's question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think to all of council, and Paul, if I do miss anything, I encourage you to step in and as well as the staff. I think as Paul highlighted early in his presentation, Councillor Mikulik, Oftentimes with projects like this, we are looking at budget. We're cognizant of budget. I think early on, Paul will tell you, one of the things I did say to him is that, with a project like this, budget, I think, is very important. Council was very clear on that last term. We were incredibly successful, I think, in working both with the private sector and raising about $500,000, as well as working with the federal government through Senator Harder, through the various programs in terms of coming to the table and being able to support this so that we would minimize the impact to taxpayers. I would suggest that for what you've got here, we are on budget. There are things we're going to bring to council. There are things that I think we're going to need to look at in terms of coordinating works when things happen in terms of the Jordan redevelopment project. There are some finishing things that we need to talk about with council in terms of strategically, do we pave the driveway? Do we look at some of that work now? Do we wait 2 years? We want people to walk on this. We want it to be accessible, but at the same time, we need to be cognizant that we're going to be ripping up part of this road in 2 years. So I think these are decision points for council. I would say, though, that as things currently stand right now, we're on budget. And it's not that we're looking at allowances. I think decisions are made kind of in real time, as Paul says, to look at what aesthetically looks good versus what aesthetically costs more. And all those decisions, I think, have been handled by the staff really on a day-to-day basis. I know many times I'll show up to the facility and I'll be asked to kind of nice and politely leave, because they're talking about paint colors and they're talking about, things like that, not things that aren't important, but things probably that they don't need the CAO there for. But one of the things we have been cognizant of is budget, making sure we stay within budget, knowing that there's going to be things that happen, whether it be the piling that needs to happen at the beginning of the project or as we move forward. There's always been a desire and a willingness, I think, to look at other amenities and to continue to fundraise. We are going to start some work. I have reached out to members of the Volunteer Association to begin those conversations around further contributions, further fundraising. I know Mayor Easton and I have spoken about reaching out to a number of the first families and starting that type of campaign. So there likely, I think, as Paul said, will be a need to do a lot of things on that site as we move forward. But those are the things that we will seek to bring forward to council in due time and seek to raise money through fundraising. We've also been incredibly successful. I didn't mention that in my opening comments, but we continue to apply for grants. We will continue to apply for grants specific to this particular portfolio and this particular ministry. So Paul, I don't know if I've missed anything or.
No,
Shannon,
you were
the rest
right
of the
on.
team?
What you've spent per square foot on this museum is unbelievable compared to other museums, especially because it's small and you don't have the economy of scale. So, that's because of the fortitude of your staff and everything else. So we've been really tight. We've kept it tight and we're almost finished, and I don't see any surprises.
Thank you very much,
Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much for that response. And there's another question I was going to ask, and Paul touched on it a little bit with regards to the back of the building. There's a lot of glass there, and I haven't walked back there lately as I've been unable to prior, although we did have that museum tour during the construction phase. With all that glass, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is I have a home that faces that sort of direction in the hot summer. And you said that the triple pane windows, that will be enough in terms of climate control in that room. And should we be looking at, or have we thought about whether or not there might be a need for blinds in that room? Should it be so sunny and like a greenhouse? Or
yeah,
I'm glad that everybody is so excited about this project. Miss Mackay, what about the drapes? Soon we'll be asking about colors. Help us out here.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, there are blinds that have been budgeted for and will be installed and are in part of the plan. And we work closely with VG on that.
Okay, perfect. That's exciting. It's just a question that, I was making sure we took care of before we were completed. So.
We've also modeled the building. We've done an energy modeling of the building. And when we do put that, the orientation of that glass is low heat gain. We've thought about all of those things with Shannon's help. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Miklik, are you satisfied?
Those are my main concerns at this time, right?
Thank you very much, because we're not going to allow you to choose paint colors tonight. Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. You know, when I first saw this design 5 years ago, I know there were a lot of people questioning it, and to see it now, it's just absolutely spectacular. And that site on the 20 Valley Creek is just so beautiful. It really does it justice. And to have that community space in the back, I could just see it being so incredibly popular because it's just a beautiful site to be on. And I'm very pleased to hear that the entire second level, the lower level, is being finished, because I know that that was considered finishing at a later date. So that's very good news. I'm really happy to hear that. And also that it's actually it's bigger than what we thought it would be. We actually have more space, which is even more good news. So I don't really have a question. I'm very happy with what I'm seeing. You know, it can handle all different kinds of exhibits. It's a state of the art, which is just fantastic. And it fits in that space just beautifully. And I think the neighbors are going to be very happy with that addition to their street, because it really is a beautiful building with the glass. I love it. So I see a lot of exhibits happening there. I see a lot of community outreach happening there. And I really see it becoming a hub for our town and a meeting place. So anyway, thank you so much for the presentation tonight. And I just cannot wait to get inside that building and see the exhibits. So thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Timmers. Madam Clerk?
Councillor Reimer is up next.
Go ahead, Councillor Reimer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Paul, for the report this evening. Just a few comments, no questions, but I was able to tour the facility a couple of weeks ago with Director McKay, and a couple things stood out to me. The mechanical side of this building, Paul, you underestimated or understated how extremely difficult it is in a building like that to maintain humidity, temperature, with north and south exposure, sunny days, cold days, extremely difficult. And so it's good to see some of the mechanical systems being used in this project in the basement where the fun stuff is hidden in some of those utility rooms. So that was very good to see. It's very functional, and you don't really get that from a plan until you sort of walk through it. But I think that's a building where we're not stuck in one mode of use. There's going to be lots of different activities. It's going to be well-used building. So that was kind of great to see. I think the front courtyard has been understated. I think it kind of sets the view from Main Street is going to be great. It's very inviting. As Councillor Timmer says, a hub type of building for town activities. So great job so far. Kudos to staff and to the consultants and the builder as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor McPherson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I also just have a couple of comments. And thank you, Paul, for the presentation, particularly the comparison of what was back in 2016, 2017, whatever that was, and what is today. I think that's important for all of us to understand the investment that has gone into this building and what we have now versus what we would have had if we settled or agreed to what was to be built originally. So thank you very much for that. You know, I recall early in the last term, I was a counselor and a ward counselor where this facility is built. And I was called to a meeting early on in the term, up the creaky stairs of the old museum into the upper boardroom or meeting room. And
Remember.
it was, you know, a discussion with the 20 Valley Association, Historical Association, about the museum, and to think about the journey that we have been on for the last 5 years with, you know, many of the obstacles that have been thrown in front of us. Certainly the archaeological dig, you know, that whole piece, the funding piece, which was a huge part of this journey. And then of course we had a little thing called COVID. So I congratulate you and also certainly the entire town staff for getting us to where we are today. And we're right on the cusp of a ribbon cutting and a grand opening, and it is very exciting. You know, I really think that the design fits. I'm in the camp that this is the perfect design for the area. That we have, you know, some of the traditional heritage homes along the street, and we also have a museum that there's no question what it is when you see it. And it is in my mind, a very appropriate design for the area and will attract visitors because of its design. So I think it's a jewel. And I think that the challenge, you know, that we all have is taking the momentum that we have with the Beamsville facility and bringing that down to Jordan. Now, I don't think there's any question that we will see more and more people coming into the facility in the months to come, and certainly in 2021 when we see things improve and we are all able to visit facilities. So I just had those comments. I think it's fantastic. And look forward to all of the various exhibitions and all of the various events that we know are going to happen in that building. So congratulations. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McPherson. I have a couple of questions. I just want to clarify, Paul, when you speak about the archival element, are you speaking about the activities that relate to the museum collection only? We have two archival entities in the town. I just want to make sure that we all understand which one we're talking about here.
Yes, your worship, to clarify, I apologize if I misled people. No, this is not your archival municipal archives. It's what I call the museum archives, and it's your staging for the rotation of exhibits and for the processing of new collection materials. So it's limited to the activities of the museum, and I call it archives in that it is in a conditioned conservation space.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I just want to make a point. The first picture that you showed us was the site plan. I know that there's a motion, I believe it was prior to 2014 or early in 2014, that requested a complete site plan. I didn't see the High Barn location in the site plan. What's your what are the intentions there?
If I can, respectfully, your worship, if I can ask Shannon or Michael Kirkopoulos to address that. We have been doing some exploration around the barn, so we have some ideas. We haven't set the location of it. So if I could respectfully ask for them to.
Okay, that's fine. I'll ask Mr. Kirkopoulos because I have another question for him. Mike, are you taking this question or?
Sure, why don't I start, Your Worship, and then,
Okay.
you know, if I miss anything, which occasionally I do, Ms. McKay can definitely chime in, or the rest of the team. You know, at the end of the day, I think we're going to work with Ontario Heritage Trust. They are going to guide us in terms of the high barn. I think there's always been a desire, if and when we can, to make sure that that barn finds itself recreated in some form back on the site. But OHT will definitely be guiding us. I think we received a little bit of an update that they would like to do some drone footage while the foliage is off the trees as we head into this type of weather to really get an idea about the slope stabilization in that particular area. So as soon as we know, I know staff will be sure to be coming back to council with that to give you an update on what the Ontario Heritage Trust has highlighted.
Okay, that's very good. I think that whereas these details are not something that is going to particularly, well, it's not going to change the building that we're talking about tonight. Understanding and not losing sight of the fact that this is part of the site plan, I think is quite important. As well as the bank stability, because it all is tied together in terms of the integrity of the whole building. Mr. Kirkopoulos, I understand, and I think that council should know about this, that there's going to be a piece of public art that's part of the opening. Do we have other public art? Are we considering looking at public art? And I'm thinking of the comments that were made earlier about the forecourt, because I believe, I really agree that that is going to be, you know, the opportunities there, I think, are quite substantial.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council, or sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, to you, I guess, in terms of the question around public art. It is one of the things I know I'm pretty passionate about in terms of having something on the site that speaks to that. I think there's a really creative way we may be able to look at some of the fundraising we want to do and utilize public art. Of course, you're going to receive a report next month, or sorry, later this month, as it relates specifically to kind of some signage and naming and how we recognize both this as a municipal facility, but also recognize the contributions made by the Jordan Historical Museum of the 20 and the Volunteer Association. So definitely we will be sharing more around that public art piece. I do want to kind of share my ideas with the staff team as well. They're probably wondering what I'm talking about, although I think they have a good idea because they've got their own ideas around public art. But I think we all value the importance of public art. I know I'm a big fan of it, and definitely something in the works that I think council will really like.
Okay, that's great. I'm pleased to hear that. Mr. CAO, can you tell us where the money for the archaeological dig came from? Because if there was ever a surprise, it was certainly going into phase 2 and I think phase 3, which was just something that we hadn't budgeted for at all.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I'm going to try to harken back and go back in my own memory to recall that. I think that was one of the things when we came to council and said all of a sudden now we were undertaking some significant archaeological work and we were looking at the particular site that would be incorporated at that time into the overall budget. That was really one of the reasons why I think council did highlight or did suggest that we look at potentially pausing, look at potentially going and having further conversations with the federal government so that we could receive some funding so that the taxpayer in a lot of ways wouldn't find themselves looking at a project that was $1 million or $2 million more than initially budgeted for. So we were able to contain those costs. Luckily, we went, I think, to a phase, I'm going to suggest a phase 2, a partial phase 3 in some of that archaeological work. And I think as a result of that, what we did, and rightfully so, council did ask us to go out there and start pounding the pavement and find additional money. So all in all, it's always been part of the project budget or the new project budget that we came forward with late in 2015, early in 2016. And like most projects in that particular area, but in a lot of areas of our municipality, and of our town. There is that Indigenous piece to it that sometimes we do have to deal with, and this was definitely one of those cases.
Well, it's probably even more remarkable that we're within budget. But if I recall, we should probably be giving some credit to Councillors McPherson and Brunet, who asked for that pause, who suggested that we need to go out. So you can accept that with thanks, Councillor McPherson. Very good. Very good. I have a last question because green roof. We talked about green roof. There was support in the public meeting for green roof. Is that something that we can continue to talk about? Maybe you, maybe Paul.
So through you, Madam Mayor, why don't I start? And again, Paul can correct me if I somehow talk out of turn or get the structural piece wrong. I think, I mean, there's always an ability on a site like this, on any site, for us to look at green roof and green roof technology. There's various elements of that technology that can be incorporated. So I think there's definitely an ability to do so. Of course, it's always going to come down to budget, but should we find a very generous benefactor that is specifically interested in green roofs, then we'll definitely be looking at that. But I think, as we've said throughout the process, that's definitely something we can come back to council with on the particular elements of a green roof or subparts of a green roof, and determine if there's some opportunities to do that. But structurally, everything can happen. We can do everything. It's all about engineering, time, and money. Paul, am I correct in that?
You're totally correct, Michael, and I'll add that we intentionally added an additional 25 pounds per square foot onto that roof in terms of loading, so that you can put a green roof on it in the future. And that's the most important thing to know. And also the orientation and slope of that roof is close to perfect for that to survive.
Okay, all right. I'll just check again, since I did introduce a couple of new things. Does anybody else have any other questions that they wish to ask? No paint questions, please. Okay, well, I have a motion. Thank you very much, Paul.
Mayor, we'll read the motion after we hear from the Rotary, if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I thought we were going to do them separately. Okay, yes, definitely. Councillors, we have a second presentation from the Rotary Club, and the interim president, Terry Kotwa, is here, and also member Sue Foster, who is the past president. Terry and Sue, you've been very, very patient. I hope that you found the conversation of interest and relevant. You have 10 minutes to present. I'll give you a little bit of extra if you require it. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I'm going to keep it nice and short for you guys. So I'm Sue Foster. I'm the past president of the Rotary Club of Lincoln, and Terry, I think, is on the call somewhere here. He is our present president at the moment. I was president for 3 years, and so I got the honor of introducing this to you tonight because I had spent about 5 years of my life talking to various councillors, the mayor, Mike, to try and come up with some kind of signature project that we could get behind as a Rotary Club. So I'm very pleased to be here this evening speaking on behalf of our club. Part of the Rotary Club of Lincoln's vision statement is service above self by making a difference in our community. We have supported many community initiatives over the years, but most recently, Charles Daly Park Rotary by Anshel, Fleming Center, Cave Springs Camp Legacy Hall, and now Rotary Park. We are very proud that we are able to contribute to the park in the downtown core of our community. So I'm with you tonight to let you know that the club has entered into an agreement with the town for a $100,000 donation to help build this beautiful facility, with $50,000 designated to the skateboard park and $50,000 for accessible playground equipment to be built in the next phase of Rotary Park. I want to congratulate everyone who advocated and supported this project. If we weren't doing this virtually, I'd be toting in a big check and presenting it to the mayor and council. But since we have to do this virtually, it's just, I will be presenting that this has been entered and agreed upon. This donation would not have been made possible without the support of Lincoln businesses and community. By supporting Rotary Club fundraisers with sponsorship, participation, and volunteers, these signature projects are made possible. I want to thank Mayor Easton, CEO Mike Kirkopoulos, sorry, Mike, Lincoln councilors, past and present, Town of Lincoln staff, especially Sarah Ain, for helping the Rotary Club of Lincoln navigate through the process of helping give life to this incredible park. In conclusion, Rotary clubs the world over have a tradition of establishing public parks for the communities they serve. These are enduring legacy projects that serve everyone equally in the community for years to come. They become signature showplaces that endure for many decades into the future as tangible witness to service above self. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. Terry, are you with us?
We've been trying to get in touch with Terry. He joined us earlier, but he has since dropped off. So we'll move on.
All right. Well, we certainly want to thank Rotary, Sue, for all the efforts that you've made and for spreading some of the largesse of the club around. I know how hard it is to raise money, so this is certainly a very, very generous donation. I'm going to turn now to councillors. I see that Councillor Njima is on the list. Councillor. Councillor Njima, I think you're still on mute.
Yeah, I just unmuted myself. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sue, for the exciting announcement and the excitement in your voice. It's great to hear. I was excited to hear that half of the money is going to accessible playground equipment. I'm trying to picture what that is, but the first thing I pictured was a post that I saw just a couple of days ago about a wheelchair swing. So a wheelchair accessible swing in Hamilton somewhere that was they just had the ribbon cutting for it. So I'm wondering, when you say accessible playground equipment, what it is that Rotary is picturing.
So that's exactly what we're picturing. We're picturing equipment that anybody of any physical ability or any kind of different things that they can do, that they're going to be able to participate. Yeah. And I think Sarah could give you a little bit more idea of what they're talking about. We really like to do things for youth. We're very supportive and we want to make things very inclusive. So we want equipment that anybody can use, equipment that everybody can enjoy.
As the town representative on the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, I'm very excited about that, and thank you.
Yes, we're going to be keeping an eye and making sure that we get something that we really can get behind.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I don't have anyone else on the list, so I'm going to turn to Sarah Ain. Sarah, would you please give Council a little bit more information on what accessible playground equipment would entail?
For you, Mayor Easton, to Council, staff are working with a number of stakeholders on the entire park project, but certainly when it comes to the accessible playground equipment, when we use the term inclusive or accessible, it's not just about persons with mobility concerns, which is what I think most people typically think of when they think of accessible. So while that's one element of it, but it could also be individuals who have sensory concerns. So we'll be including lots of tactile objects in our play equipment, ensuring that caregivers can participate readily with their children if needed. So really looking at a broad spectrum of uses for persons of all ages and abilities to be able to be included when they play, regardless of ability or disability. And certainly we'll be engaging with Rotary as well as the Joint Accessibility Committee and others who have a stake in guiding us through those decision-making processes. There's a lot of industry standards and best practices that we'll be looking to as well in terms of public space design throughout the park, particularly with respect to the accessible play areas.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I see Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just want to say thank you to Sue and to the Rotary for this very generous donation. You know, I think that the opening of the skate park on Saturday, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but I heard from several councillors that it was a very, very well-attended event, and it's a very exciting opening for our youth and those that have been traveling out of town up until now to participate in the skate park, and also the money going to the other equipment that's going in to this park. So, you know, the Rotary is you know, a key organization in many ways in our community, and this particular contribution is huge for us to make this park, you know, a go-to location, a hub, if you will, for all ages, really, in our community. So thank you, Sue, and please extend my thanks personally to the rest of the Rotary on this event, or on this investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I don't see any other speakers. I have a motion. I want to thank the speakers. I want to thank Paul Sapunzi for coming and providing us with a great overview. And we look forward to seeing you again soon, Paul, and also Sue Foster and Terry Kotwa. Thank you very much for presenting this evening. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Timmers, to receive and file as information the update from Plus VG Architects, Paul Sapunzi, on October 5th, 2020, and to receive and file as information the update from the Rotary Club, the Lincoln Rotary Club, Terry Kotwa and Sue Foster, on October 5th, 2020, regarding the $100,000 donation to the Rotary Park skate park bike pump track. I'll now ask the clerk to call out the vote. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and Councillor Brunei is marked absent, and that carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, well, we're at item number 9, and this is the motion to approve council minutes. We're now considering item 9.1, special council minutes of September 15th, 2020. Do members of council have any questions or comments?
First up, Madam Mayor, we have Councillor Pachariva.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just the first is just a couple of grammatical changes. So in the announcement by members, Councillor McPherson, he acknowledged about the BIA, not she. And when I made the comment about the food drive, it was September 19th, not August 31st. And then just a question with respect to Staff Sergeant Sean Parent's visit. So he had mentioned that, and there was also a change here when Councillor Miklick asked the question about the drive clean. So complaints since the drive clean program we left out had ended. So then my question would be, he stated that most towns create a bylaw for noise, and the police can assist in helping stop the vehicles under the umbrella of a municipal bylaw. So where might we be in this process of establishing a bylaw to assist with noise.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor. Mr. Kirkopoulos, if you please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Pachariva. I know Staff Sergeant Parent has mentioned that definitely to me as well. We've been dealing with some residents specifically that issues around noise. Definitely something that I think staff are going to take back. We haven't started the process yet, but I mean, I hear, I think I hear council in saying that it would be something you'd like us to look at. I think only when we have that bylaw in place would the police be able to then work with us to look at some of those bylaws. I think we need to look at public nuisance and a public nuisance bylaw and the various elements of that. And so I will something that we'll discuss with Kathleen and look to maybe bring forward as soon as possible.
Okay, Mr. Kirkopoulos, do you think that is it unreasonable that we would see this in 2021 or 2020?
Through you, Madam Mayor, or to you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely bring a report back that starts the process for sure.
Okay. Councillor Pachariva?
Yeah, that's terrific. I mean, we're getting into the fall, and similar municipalities around us have established this. So probably, best practice that we can adopt, look at it over the winter and then have it in place when the nice weather comes back in the spring. And then this will be a factor again. So look forward to that report. Thank you.
Very good. Madam Clerk, I don't see any other speakers.
No, not at the moment, Madam Mayor.
All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rinchima and seconded by Councillor McPherson. Approve the minutes of the following meetings of council. Special council minutes of September 15th, 2020, as amended. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Regina.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Support.
And Councillor Brunei is marked absent. That carries.
Thank you very much. Councillors, as a result of social distancing guidelines being in place, in-person public attendance at special council meetings is not currently available. We have no registered delegations for tonight as part of our virtual meeting. I move on to item number 11, motion to approve correspondence. We're now considering item 11.1. Item of correspondence from the CAO with respect to a resolution received from the Niagara region, continued initiatives for economic stimulation and recovery. And Mr. CAO would like to provide a brief overview. Mr. Kirkopoulos?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council. This was a motion that was shared with the CAOs and a lot of our senior staff as it relates specifically to economic stimulation and recovery. And so there was meetings had already. Ms. Dale, Mr. Deaney, and I did meet. This is looking at a number, I think, of things that we're doing already, specifically around economic development, around business integration, around supporting our businesses, around red tape, and a number of those sorts of things. So we're going to report back to council a little bit more holistically, but I did want to advise council, we've already met, notwithstanding you see this on your agenda here because it was shared to us as staff earlier on, and we are going to look at opportunities both to collaborate and streamline what we're doing. But I'll ask Mr. Deaney and Ms. Dale if they've got anything to add.
All right, Mr. Deaney.
Thank you, Mike, and Madam Mayor, through you to council or committee this evening. As the CEO indicated, we did already start conversing both internally with staff and having some conversation with economic development staff throughout the region on what we can be doing to help moving this forward. As you know, with our recently announced MOU around tourism, we've already started this conversation around joint initiatives with other economic development and city staff in St. Catharines on how we can jointly do some tourism marketing and provide some economic relief in our tourism sector. But in addition, the Niagara Region Economic Rapid Response Team has already started having conversations in terms of how we can look forward towards economic recovery, not just in 2020, but as I've said many times here before, both 2021 and years beyond. So those conversations have started, and we look forward to reporting back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Dale, do you have anything to add?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So in regards to the issue, so there is an existing what we call memorandum of understanding between the region and all the local municipalities as it relates to planning. So one of the things on that work plan is to continue to do updates to various processes to streamline the process. The other thing that we do notice when we discuss things with some of the other area planners is we are somewhat lucky in that we do have a number of things, planning matters that are delegated to staff, and that does help streamline and speed up the process as well. We're a little bit luckier than some other municipalities.
Okay, very interesting. All right. Thank you very much, staff, for your comments. Madam Clerk, who's first?
Councillor McPherson is up next, Madam Mayor.
Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the comments made by Mike and Paul and Kathleen, and any initiatives that we are able to bring forward to help our local businesses through this very challenging time are certainly needed, and I think we need to continue to challenge ourselves to be as supportive as we possibly can. I guess the question that comes to mind for me is the question was brought through, I believe, in the middle of July to the region, and we had already been 3 months into COVID and had done many things up to that point. So I'm wondering what more is being considered, and is there items that we have identified as possible initiatives for Lincoln? What do they look like? And what are potential budget implications as a result of those types of initiatives? So whoever would like to take that question through you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to turn to the CAO to begin the response.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I will begin, and again, I intend and believe that others will chime in, but Councillor, if I look at a little bit of the kind of conception of where I think Councillor Diodati was going in this around approvals and streamlining processes, I think what COVID has allowed us to do in terms of innovation or forced us to do, I think in some ways, is to look at how do we receive things and interact with the development community, for example, electronically. How do we not ensure that we're having to make them print out multiple copies for us and a different set of copies and information for another municipality if they're doing work there? So I think that's an important piece for sure. We're doing a lot of that. I think technology and the continued progression and advancement of technology will allow us to do more of that. I wouldn't say there's huge budget implications of that. I think though, as we look at our corporate systems master plan and moving forward in subsequent years, there may be some of that. I think from an economic development standpoint, we had talked about, again, looking at what are those responsibilities that are often delegated to staff in order to start processes. So I think when we bring that report back to council, I think there'll be things in there that both Paul and Kathleen will want to speak to and highlight in that particular area. In talking to the other CAOs, I don't think there's anything structurally that we want to look at. Again, I think, it's a philosophy. If you ask me, I think, how we accept people coming to the door, whether it's businesses, we're in the business of finding solutions. And so a lot of this and watching the conversation around this economic stimulation and recovery that Councillor Councillor Diodati put forward really stemmed from that. But there are some shared economic development services that are being looked at, and I think our planning department, as Kathleen highlighted, will look to loop in with the region on kind of streamlining approvals. So I don't know, Paul, Kathleen, anything more tangible that we're doing?
Mr. Giuliani?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. CEO. So on the shared economic development services, the region did provide some of the small business enterprise centers, the one closest to us being the one in St. Catharines, to lend some additional support for outlying municipalities. So we will be having conversations with them to help support some small business, maybe some education, some seminars, all virtually, of course, to help our small businesses recover from COVID-19, and in addition to scaling up and looking post-pandemic recovery.
Councillor McPherson, thank you very much, Mr. Deanne. Councillor
Very
McPherson?
good. No, that is very good. It sounds like we may have been a community that was further down the road as far as help that we had provided and things that we had initiated, and more like tweaks that we're going to try to do at this point. And the IT piece, certainly, we've had those discussions, and that's a big part of it. And it is it's heartwarming to know that we are in with the rest of our Niagara colleagues to look out for the small business person, and that we are trying to do everything we can from a municipality standpoint to assist through these difficult times. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I also have Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to likely the CAO. When I read this, I didn't look at it as much as a budgetary expense to create incentives as I did an opportunity to look for operational efficiencies by utilizing some of those shared services you mentioned earlier in your response to Councillor McPherson. So again, I look forward to whatever comes to fruition from that. But I also, my question is, is this only for processes that fall into those shared services buckets, or would it also encapsulate some of our own individual programs that we have?
Mr. Kirkopoulos.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. I mean, I think, councillor, this particular motion, I think, speaks to that. But I would tell you that, from a staff perspective, we're always looking at things that we can also do individually, separate and aside from any sort of shared services where we can find efficiencies. I can tell you one of the questions that we're being asked by the provincial government as we look at COVID and future COVID funding is, what efficiencies are we putting in place and looking at ourselves to ensure that if any funding does come, that we're doing it with the eye of ensuring there is a look at our business and how we deliver that business to residents. So this particularly is about shared services and coming together and doing things in a collective fashion. But I think from our perspective, and I think council knows this, we're always looking to provide greater customer service both on the residential side as well as on the business side.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Councillor Benjamin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think, right, COVID has really given us the opportunity to streamline a lot of things, and we have for sure, as a municipality, taken steps in that direction before COVID. And I think Bill 108 is attempting to streamline things as well, and just to simplify things, hopefully mostly in a good way. So as far as the development community and simplifying processes, where appropriate, great idea. Great idea in light of all the restrictions that are happening with COVID and all the need for innovation. But I also have a question. where we are streamlining processes for the development community. And again, great idea where appropriate. I'm not sure what steps we're taking to make sure that the public and their involvement in any of our public meetings is also seamless, and what steps we're taking to make sure that they're able to participate when they want to participate. Not an easy question, but I know even tonight we had one of our delegates not sure what happened there. But we know in the past we've had some people that wanted to speak and had a little bit of trouble for technological reasons. So it's come up a couple of times, and I'm sure we've gotten some answers. But can I get a reminder as to what progress what steps we're taking in this regard, and what we can expect?
Okay, you're speaking specifically, Councillor, about the public meeting process?
Yes, public
Right.
meetings.
Okay, Mr. Kirkopoulos, how do you want to direct this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, why don't I begin, and then I'll turn it over to Kathleen if she's got any comments, because I think I'd like to answer the question twofold, and Ms. Kirkopoulos may have some comments as well as others. I think there's the legislated and mandated portion of the meetings we need to hold, Councillor Rajima, but I think your question, if I hear it correctly, is a little more holistic and also includes just generally how we're going to engage in outreach. And I'll start with that part of the question I think to very clearly point out that we continue to figure out new ways to engage people. Technology in some ways has made it easier, in some ways it's made it harder. We are looking at doing virtual town halls as something we'd like to maybe introduce. We heard that at last year's budget, that maybe there could be a proactive way to reaching out to people. I would tell you, I think a number of us are on a number of social media groups and chats, and we all try to engage in those. I know I do oftentimes. I know many of you do. I would say that, and so with the utmost of respect, is that we're doing a great job of engaging. Can we do better? Absolutely. I think there's always a desire to get better in terms of the way we engage. So I think we'll look at technology, we'll look at innovation to do so. When things affect people, they engage with their municipality, they engage with their council, they engage with municipal staff, whether it be a committee of adjustment application, small or large, or whether it be something in their ward. If I think about the issues around Vineland that we heard about last week, social media was on that. Quickly resolved and quickly addressed both through a conventional media story as well as an online media conversation around that. So I think where and if possible, we're going to continue to use technology. We're going to go to people where they are. We're going to meet individuals in the community. We're going to continue to have traditional public meetings if and when we can do that coming out of COVID. But right now, from a legislated or mandated perspective, Kathleen, Julie, I'm not sure if you've got any more to add in terms of other innovative ways to engage.
Julie, do you have anything to add? Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Rajima. The only thing I will add, and Mike said it very well, is there are different capabilities on the Zoom platform using Zoom webinar. Councillor Rajima, I know you're very familiar with Zoom in your other line of work. So the Zoom webinar is slightly different, and that is something that we're looking at with IT services to engage for statutory public meetings on a bigger scale. So that is something that we're currently in the works with IT at the moment. I can let Kathleen add anything else if I've missed that.
Ms. Sale?
Okay, so I believe our clerk and our CIO have answered the question. In regards to some of our statutory public meetings, right now it is difficult because we can't have meetings, in person. So what we have done is the notices that we actually tailored our notices so that people can participate electronically. They can send in comments. They can send us emails. We have in our notices, we have a link to a staff member so the staff can set them up to participate electronically, similar to what Julie does for any public meetings that are going to come through Committee of the Whole. And as Julie mentioned, for some of the larger public meetings with IT, we are looking at the Zoom webinar function. We also think that might be good for some of the PICs that we're going to be doing in the future as well.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is that satisfactory, Councillor?
I just want to say another little bit.
Sure.
I absolutely agree that whenever, I mean, we've seen it, a lot of examples of things happening on social media and things coming through electronically, and staff have been all over it, and it's been wonderful. We've seen a lot of things resolved and a lot of issues taken care of. I just know that not everybody's connected electronically, and not everybody has access to social media, and there's no simple answer. So it sounds like we're really doing some good work to try to accommodate for all the difficulties right now. And Councillor Russell and I are having a ward meeting November 19th, and we're sort of keeping it flexible right now as to how the format's going to be, because everything seems to be changing week to week. And so I guess we'll see as we move along what we end up doing in that regard. Okay, thank you.
That's great. Okay, I have a couple of comments about this because as you are able to see, this came to the region on July 23rd. I thought then, and I still think, that this is a very simplistic approach to a very important issue. I know that the town of Lincoln has been pretty progressive for all of the last 6 years in terms of the culture around getting work done, and particularly their how-to attitude. And so I do believe that there are budgetary implications to this. I think there are quite significant budgetary implications. Shared services may or may not happen, because I believe you have to match cultures and you have to ensure that people have a similar work ethic. Otherwise, you are adding on a level of supervision that we don't have at the moment, where you have a small group of people who know how to work well together. I'm not suggesting that we don't do this, but I am suggesting that if people are off-site and they're working in a different cultural environment, there is the chance that we won't have the same flow through in terms of that how-to attitude. The planning department in Lincoln, I don't know if there's any more corners of desks for anyone to do any work. I guess we would certainly have to look at that. And I don't know if council has ever contemplated the idea of putting a moratorium on new work. But I do believe that this is the kind of thing that would have to be considered when we go forward with an idea like this. And that's why I say it is very simplistic. And so I think that we would certainly want to look at it much more thoroughly. So those would be my comments on this memo. Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands up, Madam Clerk.
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Mikulik, that correspondence from the Niagara region regarding the resolution for continued initiatives for economic stimulation and recovery be received for information. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Bernays marked absent. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We move on, councillors, to item 12, motion to receive and file council information. And we have 3 items to consider. Council information package of September the 11th, of September the 18th, and of September 25th, 2020. Let's start with September the 11th. Do members have any comments? Councillor Pachariba.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just wondering if we should support the notice of the municipality of Tweed on cannabis. I think it might be give us another tool in the cannabis toolbox. They asked that immediate action be taken by all levels of government for medical cannabis licensing to follow similar regulations and guidelines as all other pharmaceutical industries. And they also asked that licensed locations, medicinal marijuana licensed locations, be disclosed in advance to the municipalities hosting those licensed locations. Presently, we don't get that, and you know, we have to find them on our own. So I think these are a couple good good items in their motion. Just wondering thoughts of the CAO
All
on
right,
this.
Mr. Councillor Pachariba, what page, please?
It is page 31 of 150.
31.
Yep.
All right. Mr. Kirkopoulos.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I mean, I think, you know, as is the case with most of what we hear from other municipalities where there's a benefit, I think there's always a positive in doing that. So from a staff perspective, I don't see any risk or downside to that. We can always learn from other municipalities and where we can build a coalition of support. There's always a benefit to that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And very good, Councillor. Councillor Reimer. You're on mute, Councillor Reimer.
Try it again.
You're
How's
good.
that? Thank you, Madam
Good.
Mayor. Page 20 on the September 11th package. There's a letter there regarding the Quarry Road landfill work. It mentions an attached notice for more information. I don't see that attached notice. I'm assuming the public meeting or public information dates and stuff are on there. I just don't see it anywhere.
Okay. Mr. Graham, can you help us here?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. I know there would have been a link attached to that that would have had that information on if it's not on that page you're referring to.
Yeah,
Do you happen to have it in your hands, close at hand, Mr. Graham?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I don't have it handy.
Okay,
But,
It gives links to the Blue Plan Engineering firm, but there's in her letter it mentions see attached notice for more information, and there's nothing attached to this.
Madam Mayor, I can follow up with the region in order to get that information. I'll circulate that to council.
Okay, thank you. I know I've read it because we talked about it during the capital budget discussions. Is that satisfactory, Councillor Reimer?
That's great. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Rinchema.
Unmute. Thank you,
you're on.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
So my question is, are we on the information packet? Is it?
We're still on September the 11th.
Okay, I'll wait. My question is about September 25th. My apologies.
Okay, just a moment. Madam Clerk, are there any other questions or are there any other speakers on the list?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, then we can move on, Councillor Rinchema.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is, and it's from the
What page?
It's the third item in the council information package of September 25th.
But you have to tell us what page.
Yeah, when I bring it up, it doesn't have a page on the PDF. It just says item number, it's just item number 3.
Okay, well, maybe the Madam Clerk can help us.
And it's September 25th?
Yeah.
Okay, so that begins on page 65 of the agenda. Give me one moment.
But the town of Amherstburg?
Yes,
All
the
right.
second one. So it's actually, it's page 7 of the PDF. The second town of Amherstburg.
It's on page 71.
Thank you. All
Okay.
right, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Counselor.
Okay, so this motion talks about Bill 108, and Amherstburg is asking the province to amend Bill 108 and keep appeal authority for heritage-related matters with the Conservation Board as opposed to moving it over to LPAT. The thought being that LPAT members are likely not experts in cultural heritage value. From my perspective, I know that we've had some conversations about the extent to which there's a lot of interest in coming to Niagara and living here and developing here. And we in Lincoln have some properties with heritage value that we're in the process of trying to protect. I'm wondering if we could hear a little bit about this and wonder if it's something that we should be concerned about.
All right. Ms. Dale, I think you are, I don't know whether you're prepared to have a discussion about this evening or not.
Madam Mayor, I can just let you know that staff are actually doing a report to Bill 108. We do want to take it through the Heritage Committee first and get their input before we bring it to a committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. What do you think, Councillor Benjima?
I think that's great. Thank you very much. We're going
Okay.
to hear about this in the future. Good.
All right. I don't see anybody else on the list, Madam Clerk.
No, go ahead.
All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Reimer. Receive and file the following council information packages. Council Information Package September 11th, 2020, Council Information Package September 18, 2020, Council Information Package September 25th, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Bruni is marked absent. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries.
All right. Now we move on to item 13, and we're now considering recommendations from standing committees. Item 13.1, Committee of the Whole minutes of September the 28th. Do members have any comments? I see no speakers. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Pachariva. Approve the following recommendations from Standing Committee of the Whole minutes of September 28th, 2020. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Thank you. Councillor Bruni is marked absent. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
That carries.
Thank you very much. Councillors, item 14 is notice of motion. Are there any notices of motion? I have none, but are there any notices of motion? There being none, we'll move on to item number 15, motion to consider confidential. And we have no matters of confidential for this evening. Item number 16 is a motion to approve bylaws, and we have 5 bylaws for consideration. Do members have any comments?
Madam Mayor, we have Councillor Reimer.
Thank you. Councillor Reimer, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding the bylaw item 16.4 on the agenda, 2020-57, I'd ask that gets removed and we vote on that separately and a recorded vote, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
We can do that. Madam Clerk, would you take us through that process? Motion to lift?
Absolutely. So we can vote on that now, but I do see that there's Councillor Rajima looking to speak next. Is this to this item, Councillor? No? Okay. So we can go ahead with that vote for that individual bylaw, Madam Mayor.
All right.
Thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Rajima, that leave be given to approve the following bylaw 2020-57, a bylaw for prohibiting and regulating the alteration of property grades with the town of Lincoln and repeal bylaw number 9943. And I'll call the vote. Councillor Brunei is marked absent. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklik.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
No.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
No.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries.
All right. Councillor Renchima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a comment about the bylaw, with Peninsula Ridge regarding the incentives for heritage restoration. And I had to look it up because I didn't know that there was a heritage building on that property. And I figured out that it's the William Kitchen House, which is the coach house up there. And I was just there the other day. It's a lovely building. And I'm glad that they're able to take advantage of these incentives programs to invest in it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Renchima that leave be given to approve the following bylaws. 2020-54 bylaw to authorize the execution of a heritage grant agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Lincoln and Peninsula Ridge Estates Winery Limited. 2020-55 bylaw to authorize the execution of a heritage grant agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Lincoln and the trustees of Ebenezer Christian School. 2020-56 bylaw to amend bylaw 06-59, being a bylaw to designate the Bucknell Barn under the Ontario Heritage Act. 2020-58 bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw to include the site alteration fees and tree permit fees. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Brunei is marked absent. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklik.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
That carries.
Madam Clerk, I believe that I may have missed an item. Maybe I didn't, but did I attend to the item under councillor announcements?
We attended to that at the beginning of the meeting, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Madam Clerk, and councillors, I wanted to mention that two things. First of all, I want to thank Councillor McPherson for his very substantial role over two rotations of the deputy mayor role. Right in the sort of central part of the COVID situation while we were getting ourselves established. Thank you very much, Councillor McPherson, for agreeing to do that. I very much appreciated it. It made work much easier for me. And I believe that it was important and necessary for us to have additional representation when we felt it necessary to get together and discuss things as a small caucus with Councillor Pachariva. And secondly, I want to welcome Councillor Mikalik as the deputy mayor. Councillor Mikalik will be in the role until the end of the year. Councillor, thank you very much for agreeing. First of all, thank you very much for your patience. I know that we were making some changes along the way and it was necessary that we do that. I appreciated the latitude and I welcome you into this role. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are at item 17. We will now confirm the proceedings of the council meeting. I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer, seconded by Councillor Mikulik, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2020-59, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of special council at its meeting held Monday, October the 5th, 2020, being read a first, second, and third time. That bylaw number 2020-59 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Councillor Brune marked absent. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik.
Yes.
Councillor Patriva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Support.
That carries.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor McPherson that special council on October the 5th, 2020 be adjourned at 20:45 hours. I will now ask the clerk to call the vote.
Councillor Brune is marked absent. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik.
Yes.
Councillor Patriva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
And Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
And this concludes our council meeting for this evening. And ladies and gentlemen who are going to be watching this tomorrow or the next day, thank you very much again for the interest that you demonstrate by watching in the business of the town. We very much appreciate it. And a reminder to everyone to stay safe while you're driving home tonight. Madam Clerk, thank you very much. And Matt, all the staff, thank you all very much for your support. Good.